Hey there, Cancer. Welcome. This is going to be your Saturn in Aries reading. Is in Aries until April 12th, 2028. You have this flexibility in this forgiveness card. Your first row is what Saturn is going to be testing in your life during this period of time that it is in Aries. So flexibility, of course, we are in a time of flexibility. We have to be multifaceted. We have to be able to move quickly as well. And this is also Uranus and Gemini, which will be coming in April. So definitely something to think about. I also think forgiving yourself would be a good thing with that forgiveness card. If you feel like you were too slow or too not fast enough, or if you feel like you missed out on things, practicing forgiveness is going to be very important just in general. Aries for you is probably your 10th house. Now, you're going to have to look at your own chart and figure out where it is, but for the most part, it is going to be affecting kind of like 10th house energy for you, Cancer. And the 10th house is like your career. It is your, kind of like work that you do in some ways, and even like authority, right, in your life. And that is kind of where I think you need to be flexible. Saturn is the taskmaster. He makes us work on things. And your first card here, again, we're looking at what is Saturn testing during this period of time. You have the Ace of Wands, the Ten of Wands, and the Knight of Pentacles. So I think Saturn is testing your inspirations and like following through on your inspirations. I think he's also testing your ability to build things. The Ace of Wands is out with the old in with the new. We have to build something new with this wand here. Usually we are inspired to build something new in the first place. So I think following through on your inspirations, being flexible in how you accomplish them, and also feeding things is popping into my head. The Ace of Wands is just like a spark. What we put in, we have to keep putting wood on that fire to get it to grow. So I think feeding your ideas and not just letting them kind of like get sucked into the abyss is what's popping into my head for you here, Cancer. And so like feeding them to a point where they become successful is kind of what needs to happen here. I also think that this is kind of a random message that I'm getting here, Cancer, that I think Saturn and also some other things that will be happening during, between now and April 12th of 2028 when Saturn leaves Aries. I think the universe is testing your ability to reinvent things, or almost like alchemy type energy, taking something that you like, an idea, but it's like maybe it's not working how you are doing it. I think Saturn could be saying, well, there are other ways that you could get this to work. And so it's almost like Saturn is like saying, don't give up, Cancer, on your good ideas. Maybe you have to change something about what you are working on, but if you do that, good things will happen. You have the Ten of Wands, which makes perfect sense to me. I think it was you that I said, like, what if this guy had a truck on his farm? He's carrying these 10 wands. Those 10 wands represent his harvest, but he's basically doing things the hard way, to get to his home, to have his harvest. Like, what if he had a truck or a tractor that he could just throw those wands onto and drive it to his front door? And so it's almost like Saturn is saying, like, why are you doing things the hard way when your life could be so much easier? I think that there are things in your life that you want, Cancer, and it's almost like the fear or something is a much bigger deal than just asking for it, like whatever it is you want. That's kind of what's popping into my head. It's like you're making a bigger deal out of something, or like it could be multiple things over the next few years, where it's like you're saying to yourself, like, oh my God, this is going to be so much work, or I'm scared to do this, or I'm afraid of the outcome. But it's like Saturn is trying to teach you, like, no, if you just ask for things that you want, like what if he has a friend that has a truck? It's like the card is saying, like, couldn't you just go ask your friend to come help you like move these wands for like 10 minutes? Is it really that big of a deal? Is there, are you afraid they're going to reject you asking for help? I don't think so. Next, we have the Knight of Pentacles. Yeah, I think the easy way to put this first row is it's like Saturn is testing your follow-through on ideas and your how much work you're willing to put into things, and are you willing to get started in the first place, right? Knight of Pentacles is no movement, and he needs to just plant a seed in this field and it will grow. The other thing that's popping into my head, Cancer, is like future proof. It's almost like saying that there is going to be no proof that something is going to work. I think Saturn and Aries might be saying you need to go get the proof that something is going to work by following through. So that's what I would do there with that first row. But let's see what comes up for you. With the Ace of Wands, you have the Judgment card. It would not surprise me if you were revisiting an old idea, especially for those of you in work or business, but this could be something you've worked on before, like a diet, something having to do with your health or whatever. And, it could just be something you didn't follow through on the first time, and you're kind of like revisiting it, and you could be reinventing it. These people are living in these coffins, and the coffin represents their old life. Outside the coffin is their new life. The universe is encouraging these people to go experience something new or different, or create a different life for themselves. And I feel like that's what this reading is encouraging. It's like saying, with some unique twists to the way that you work or the way you live your life, it will change your whole life. If they step out of this coffin, their whole life will change. Their perspective will change. They're living in a tiny little square box, basically, or rectangle box, whatever. I don't know my shapes, but what I would say here is it's like there's a whole wide world out there for you to explore, and maybe you shouldn't be fitting inside of a box. With the Ten of Wands, you have the Sun, which is amazing. The Sun is ease, right? This little baby child here is carrying this big banner. That banner is meant to look like something that is very heavy, but he is carrying it very easily. And it doesn't say life is going to be easy, but it does say, how can you make life easier? Can you ask a friend to borrow a truck, right? That should be your motto, or the question that you should be asking for everything that you're doing. And I think if you do that, things will get easier. With the Knight of Pentacles, you have the Ten of Swords. Yeah, I think you have to be good at cutting things out very quickly. Again, some people say Cancer is like crabs in a bucket. Crabs in a bucket, when one crab escapes, all the other crabs try to pull that crab back into the bucket, right? And so the Ten of Swords, I feel, is about not getting stuck. That's what's popping into my head with this card. It's like saying, you need to learn how to look at any situation, and you need to learn, or you will be learning. I don't even think this is like a need to learn. I think this is more just saying you will be learning how to quickly identify situations that just aren't going to go the right direction, and you're going to leave those things behind very quickly. Kind of a weird message for the Ten of Swords, but it is giving me that feeling of being able to identify things that aren't working quickly and getting out of the situation quickly, all situations in your life. Next, we are going to look at where are you acting too fast. We're basically looking at the shadow of Saturn and Aries. Saturn and Aries can bring up like anger, reckless energy, moving too quickly, ego, things like that. You have this Say Yes card. Yes, Ten of Swords. It says, now is the time to be open to receive. But again, maybe you say yes too quickly to things, or, it's like saying don't agree to things you definitely don't want to do, right? You have this card that says, accept what is. The act of acceptance brings peace. And yeah, that's the other thing as well. Like, instead of trying to change situations, although I do feel there is some alchemy here, if something isn't working in your life, accepting it and saying like, I can just go try something else to find a situation that is right now. And maybe a part of this reading is saying that in the past that you have kind of idealized certain situations. And I feel this is saying like the ideal, nothing is perfect, but the ideal situations you're looking for exist. But if you're trying to turn something into an ideal situation, or trying to force something that isn't willing to work with you, then you're going to have a hard time. And this goes for all areas of your life here, Cancer. You have the Eight of Pentacles, the King of Cups, and the Three of Cups. I kind of feel like everyone's going to get the Eight of Pentacles because it is very Saturn and Aries. Saturn and Aries, very straightforward. It is like start, finish. That's it with Saturn and Aries. He is almost finished. He only has one more pentacle to complete, and then he will get his reward, right? So, but it's also very straightforward work, right? He can do the work, but he can also look up at the work he has done, and he can see that he is getting a result. It's right in front of him. Right there. So it's almost like this is saying, no, the results will be obvious. If there are no obvious results to the things you're working on, those are probably the things that you're putting energy into that, I don't want to say they're a waste of time, but, for the most part, those might be the things that need to be eliminated, is the things that don't produce a result. You have the King of Cups. I would definitely keep a close eye on your emotions. There are other things going on over the next couple of years that could represent emotional energy. The King of Cups has very deep emotions, but the trick with the card is that he needs to make sure that he is not drowning in his emotions. So he has to come up for air. The other thing is he's sitting in choppy waters, but he is perfectly fine. He's not worried about what's going on around him. And that could be another thing that you are working on right now is we are all kind of in choppy waters right now, kind of a crazy time. So you might be working on just sitting with the energy. And there's definitely something about Saturn and Aries that I think could be very reactive. We're going to see a lot of people being very reactive, road rage, all sorts of stuff like that, right? And so instead of doing that, being willing to just sit with it and say like, okay, I'm having this emotion about this situation in my life, and I'm just going to process it real quickly. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to go through it, and then I'm going to think about it. I think that would be a great thing for you to work on. You have the Three of Cups here as well. I actually feel pretty good. Again, this row isn't meant to be bad. It just, meant to represent, the shadow work that can be done. But I feel pretty good about this, although I do feel a little challenge with that Ten of Wands. For you would be asking for help and when you need it and speaking up, right? And these three ladies are celebrating a harvest. So they're getting this harvest because they're asking for help. Or because someone maybe asked for help, right? They're also, maybe one of these people that asked for help, they are benefiting the collective. By asking for help, you are benefiting the collective, because when a person helps you, they get to share in your success. They get to celebrate as well. And so that might also be something the universe is asking you to do at this time. With the Eight of Pentacles, you have the King of Pentacles. Yeah, King of Pentacles uses his skills for success. He has these grapes behind him. You also have the grapes on the Nine of Pentacles as well. And the grapes in the tarot represent having a specific skill that is hard for most people that you can do well. So during this time, you have a skill that you need to use, and I would be working on your skills. That's the other thing as well, with the whole alchemy message I was getting on the Ace of Wands. I do think we're in a time where we should be upgrading our skills, right? We're in a different world, right? So this isn't saying like, oh, you need to go learn more. It's saying you need to learn more about what you're already doing and improving the skills you already have, strengthening those skills. So I kind of get like a little bit of a strength vibe coming off of this King of Pentacles. With the King of Cups, you have the Two of Wands, being willing to step into the unknown, right? So he has this boat behind him on the King of Cups. The boat on the King of Cups represents him having the opportunity to travel into the unknown, being able to go somewhere where he doesn't know what's going to happen. He doesn't know what the outcome is going to be. It's almost like this reading is asking, or at least the first part of this reading is asking you to escape the bucket, the crabs in the bucket, right? And asking you to be willing to enter into slightly scary situations of the unknown. I always tell a story as well. It's like this type of energy reminds me of like, I'm a Pisces. I just want to stay home all the time, right? And when I was a kid, in high school, I had to go to this like camp thing. I was like part of this group, and like I really didn't want to go. I just wanted to stay home, right? I didn't want to like sleep in a camp with a bunch of other people and all this other stuff. But it's like once I did it. Like the last few days, I didn't want to leave, right? So sometimes I think we get scared of like new opportunities or a new world right here, and we kind of resist it at first. But it's like once we do it, we have a really great freaking time. And that's kind of what all this is saying to me, is that there could be some moments of resistance where you're like, I don't know if I want to do this, or you get a little bit nervous, but then you do it and you have a great time. And with the Three of Cups, you have the Temperance card, alchemy, mixing two things together. This whole reading is about alchemy for sure. Now, there's like a big difference. Again, there are going to be things that just aren't going to work, right? And so if you're not seeing that result in front of you, probably time to change, time to do something different. I think there are other things in your life that are working right now, but just maybe not as well as you want. Again, Ten of Wands. It's working. He's getting a result. He's bringing those 10 wands to his home, but there could be a better way to do it. And so those are the things you have to identify. And those are the things in your life that you have to alchemize, right? You have to say, like, how can I make this more efficient? How can I make it faster, easier, better? How can I make it more fun? How can I make it something that causes me to overflow and live in joy and all that other good stuff? Next, we are going to look at what you should be building long-term at this time. Saturn and Aries wants us to build something long-term. You have this regret card. You have 3 cards. You have this regret card, this empathy card, and this strength card. We just said strength. We're going to start here. With the regret card, I kind of said that at the beginning of the reading, that I don't know that it's really regrets, but I think there are things, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I think there are things like opportunities that you have seen that maybe you feel like you missed out on or that you didn't grab onto. And I feel like this is saying, well, now you have the opportunity to grab onto those opportunities. Again, you have this empathy and strength card. So the strength card is definitely talking about strength with the King of Pentacles. I think it would be good for you to just like pick one skill. You know, it's like, what are you a natural at? I always tell people one of my other favorite things to do is like, what have people told you you're good at that you don't think you're good at, right? Just to give you an example, for many years I worked in copywriting. I always have thought I'm a terrible writer. I remember one time in class, we were doing a grammar exercise. I was being a Pisces and staring out the window the entire time. And I remember the teacher was like, okay, hand it in. And I had nothing on my paper. I did absolutely nothing. Everybody else was done. And so that's my grammar experience for you, right? And I always thought I was a bad writer, and it wasn't until I was working on a project. I had to work on a piece of copy. They had no one else to do it, so I had to do it. And someone was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" Right? And I thought I sucked. So what in your life, have you thought you're bad at that you could actually strengthen, that people have taught you're a natural at? Maybe you haven't thought of it. I think you need to have more empathy and care for yourself. We see, one thing I will say is I think a lot of people are going to get nurturing energy in their readings at this time. It just seems like it's a good time for people to like nurture things that nurture themselves, right? You have the Emperor, the Nine of Pentacles, and the Four of Pentacles. Probably going to see a lot of Emperors as well because Aries. But the Emperor, I think, one thing I will say with Saturn and Aries is, being your 10th house, there could be a lot of opportunities in your career, your business, or just even anything that has to do with authority that are coming your way. Now, this could even be something like building a family, because, if you're becoming a parent, for example, there is a certain level of authority that you will be taking in life. And Saturn just wants us to do things that make us responsible or wants us to work on responsibility. And, that's kind of what's popping into my head. But, being in your 10th house, I definitely feel you could be building a lot of authority. This could be like building a following online, getting into a leadership position in your career or your business or your work or whatever. Could be just taking the lead in some other area of your life. It's a great time for you, Cancer, to like build a following. But again, that doesn't have to be on social media. You could be starting a group in your town or, where you live or something like that. All those things would be very good. And again, for you, Three Cups, anything that benefits the collective is going to lead to wealth. Right here, Nine of Pentacles, right? Benefiting the collective, here's the result. So definitely something to think about. You have the Nine of Pentacles. Again, anything that is more independent. We were talking about crabs in a bucket, and that was popping into my head at the beginning of the reading. So I think building your own independence would be a very good thing for you to focus on. Your own independent mind, your own thoughts about things, and not thinking what everybody else is thinking, right? Which is actually very Neptune and Aries. I think with Neptune and Aries, we're going to see like new cults being created because it's like Neptune and Aries is like looking for a savior. People are just going to look for a person who has all the answers. Neptune and Pisces has been teaching us for many years that only we have the answers, right? So we have to apply what we learned. Astrology works in a circle. One thing leads to another with astrology, right? We've been learning how to trust ourselves more and how to see through illusions. And now that it's in Aries, Neptune, now we have to use that energy. So I think that working on your own independent mind would be a good idea. I also think that learning about giving, right? She has 6 pentacles over here, 3 over here. She's willing to give 3 pentacles to anything in her life, but she always keeps more than enough for herself. And so this goes for everything: time, effort, energy, attention. And this is like a structure that I would be building in your life, right? Again, this row we're asking, what are you building long term? This is like a structure or, like a mindset or a habit that you should be building is like, okay, I'm going to enter into situations. I'm going to give to new situations like love, business, work, everything. But I'm just going to give enough at first. And I'm going to see how it goes. If the situation returns the favor, great, I'll keep going. If it doesn't, great, I'll stop and I'll move on to something else, right? You have the 4 of Pentacles. It's like creating new security is something that you should focus on. I don't always think that 4 of Pentacles is bad, but he is holding on to less. I think this is about asking for things unapologetically, Cancer. He would, if he wanted to make $10 million a year, he would maybe say, I want to make $10 million a year, but I would be okay with $1 million a year, right? Four of Pentacles says, no, you need to ask for the $10 million a year, and that's it. There is no but also I will accept this, right? Same thing goes for love, pretty much everything in your life. So I feel this is almost like talking about confidence. We have this strength card here. Like having the confidence to not settle is what I'm getting on that card. With the Emperor, you have the Emperor. So, basically the universe saying I meant what I said. With the Nine of Pentacles, you have the Knight of Cups. Could be a little bit of love coming in for you, Cancer. Again, these readings aren't really meant to be love, but, this could be talking about learning how to allow love into your life as a compliment, not something that you have to give your heart and soul over to, right? Not something that is requiring these massive sacrifices where you sacrifice yourself, right? And that's what I would be, if you are looking for love, I would definitely be built, to have something long-term, that's what I would be working on. Yes, with the Four of Pentacles, you have the Three of Cups. It's almost like this reading is asking you to get comfortable without a comfort zone, if that makes sense. It's almost like your independence is your comfort zone. Nine of Pentacles, she just knows she can do things. And so she doesn't need a comfort zone, really, because she knows that if anything happens in her life, she can just go create more comfort somewhere else. So there is no comfort zone, if that makes sense. And that's kind of popping into my head. It's also asking for help, right? It's like if you have people who can help you do things, then you don't necessarily need to have a comfort zone because those people can help you create more comfort, if that makes sense. I don't know. Weird message. It's popping into my head. So there you go. Next, we are going to look at your reward from Saturn and Aries if you handle this energy correctly. So if you do the work. You have this past life card. It says past events, people from the past life connections, history, memories, familiarity, old soul. You have this high honor card. 10th house is the house of honors and respect. It says promotion, a raise, success, awards, recognition, fame, achievement, high society, positive public opinion. I said all that in the reading, basically. So, yep, that would be my focus if I were you, Cancer. Right there is like that 10th house, authority, honor, doing things that create more honor in your life. There is something about the past here in this reading. Even the Emperor, he is holding on to this Ankh right here, which can represent rebirth or kind of like the past. You have the Judgment card as well. So there could be like past karma or past things coming in for you here. You have the Six of Swords, the Queen of Cups, and the Eight of Cups. Yeah, Six of Swords is not focusing, but it's about moving on to calmer shores. This woman and the child in the boat, they're leaving everything behind them in the past. So they are completely starting over on the other side. And a lot of you could just be moving on to better times with the Six of Swords, which is great. You show up here with the Queen of Cups, whenever you show up as yourself, puts you in a position of power and strength. This is about living a heart-based life, the Queen of Cups. So you could be getting into a period of time where you are able to live more from your heart. And, again, it's clear to me that that's exactly what this reading wants you to do, is live a more heart-based life. You have the Eight of Cups. I said it earlier about no settling on that Four of Pentacles. Eight of Cups is a card where he is walking away from something that does provide him with a result. Those 8 cups do provide something to him, but he's choosing to walk away because it's not really fulfilling. And so coming up as a reward, this could represent finding fulfillment by walking away from things that aren't right for you or walking away from things that aren't really truly fulfilling for you. And again, it looks to me like you're finding fulfillment. With the Six of Swords, you have the Knight of Wands. I'm not sure what this energy is. With the Four of Pentacles, the whole comfort zone thing, it's all kind of like coming together for me in some ways. But Knight of Wands, he's very spontaneous. It's like maybe that's what this reading is saying, is that instead of being like super structured in your life and having these comfort zones and like and protecting yourself all the time, it's like you're being more spontaneous, or you're just like willing to be more spontaneous. This is a good thing, Cancer, for sure. I think that it could feel a little bit like being on a roller coaster at times, because it's like you're being asked to accept opportunities that are open-ended. It's not this like secure bucket with a bunch of other crabs. It's like you're in the open ocean. But I think it's exhilarating. It'll be exciting if you allow it to be exciting. Kind of like the camp story that I told you. With the Queen of Cups, you have the Five of Swords. Yeah, one of your rewards could be that you're seeing that risks aren't really that scary. Five of Swords is a card of taking a risk. But maybe the reward you're living is one that is less fearful, less full of worries and doubts and things like that, which I think is great. With the Eight of Cups, you have the Moon. The Moon as a reward would be like embracing mystery, going down a new path. This is part of the Fool's journey. He has to walk down the Moon to go have an accomplishment. So with all that, with Saturn also in your 10th house, could be a time of accomplishment where you are going to be accomplishing more. We're going to pull 5 themes for Saturn and Aries with the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. You have this appreciation card. Gratitude was one of the keywords of 2026, so I think that practicing gratitude would be a great idea for you with this appreciation card. You have this decision card. Yes, this makes a lot more sense with that 4 of Pentacles, 3 Cups, and that Knight of Wands. It's like you have had many readings with me in the past about decision making, making the right decisions, and maybe you're just willing to just make a choice and live with the consequences. I know that sounds scary, but I think this is a good thing because maybe before you just haven't been making any decisions at all, and so nothing is happening. It's like you're realizing that just making a choice and sticking with it is better than no decision at all. Next, you have this Harmony card. Yeah, it's like you're creating true peace in your life. The opposite of your 10th house is Libra, your 4th house. And so the 4th house is what gives your chart structure. A lot of people say the 4th house is home and family, but it is also the root of your chart. It is your Imam Quayle. The bottom of your chart is your IC. It's your 4th house cusp, right? The opposite is your 10th house cusp. And so that's what gives you structure. And the 9 of Pentacles, to me, it's like saying that it doesn't matter where you are, you can create comfort. There are no comfort zones. I still am not sure about that message. Again, I don't claim to know everything, Cancer. And this is clearly something you're going to be figuring out as you go along. But that's what I'd say there. You have this fulfillment card. Yes, we talked about it with the 8 of Cups. Definitely marching towards fulfillment during Saturn and Aries. And finally, you have this extremism card. Yeah, this is what I would be careful of extremism because Neptune and Aries, again, even though we're reading for Saturn and Aries, it doesn't matter. During this time, we could see extreme things. And so I would avoid extreme thinking even as well. You had that card that said something about thinking or whatever it said. I don't remember where it said it, but I was talking somewhere in here about like pausing and thinking. And so, I would pause and think. Anything that anything, especially if you have people rushing into your life, telling you things, trying to freak you out or whatever, pausing and thinking would be a good idea. But this looks pretty good, Cancer. I like it. So thank you for being here. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all the good stuff, and definitely enjoy Saturn and Aries.